Good morning and welcome to Prime seminar on artificial intelligence. My name is Toomas Mõttus and today I will tell you a little bit about Microsoft Cognitive Services AI. And these cognitive services, AI services, two times services, these are services that have pre-trained models and pre-trained these processes for different cognitive tasks like vision, hearing, speech, and so on. And we all know that AI or computers are good for running different these like repetitive tasks and are very efficient in that. And but sometimes it's quite difficult to start using those services as this requires a lot of work and training the model, and it's hard to understand how to train computers. And Microsoft has taken a lot of that hard task out of the AI training with these different cognitive services. And today we will talk about those services and what are those main capabilities that you should look at or look into to evaluate if they could be good for your business. But before we go to Microsoft Cognitive Services side and AI services side in general, I will talk a little bit about Prime. So our Prime is an IT services company operating in Baltic states. Baltic states is our home market, but we have done projects also all over the world. I think the only exception right now is still Latin America, but everywhere else we have conducted some projects. And what we see as our mission is to help people in organizations to make their organizations and communities more successful, and we do it by investing our own time into learning new IT technology, finding how it can help our customers, and introducing it and explaining how they can use it in their everyday business to be more successful. And we believe in doing it all together with our customers. So it's a journey. When we ask for customers to invest in some kind of solution, we are doing that investment also ourselves and helping customers at every step. And we know that sometimes if you try new stuff, you will fail, but it's just you have to stand up and start running again. And if you are persistent enough, then you will be the fastest one. So this is what we truly believe. And as I said previously, we are learning all the time new technologies, and we have also certified our people in Microsoft technologies, and we have quite a list of different good certifications in Microsoft partner programs, starting from cloud platform and cloud productivity to data platform and application development. And we cannot forget about desktop support. So we have certification in Windows and devices and enterprise mobility management, which concern desktop support and mobile user support. So we think we have pretty good coverage in technologies and capabilities to help almost every company in our market. Myself, my name is Toomas Mõttus, as I said, and I'm responsible for data business line in Prime, and I have also completed some exams to prove that I know something about the field. So I am Power Platform certified, Azure data certified engineering side, and also AI engineering side, and also data analyst, which means Power BI product line. But enough about Prime and me. Let's go to today's subject about artificial intelligence. And when we are talking about artificial intelligence, then very often people think about robots or some high functioning computers from movies that can do everything and are very understand all the subjects of life and are even smarter than people. And in some fields, that's true. We know that computers have been better in chess for more than 20 years now. They have been proved that they are better in different games like Go, also like only after a couple of hours of training. So, and that means that there are fields where computers are more are better, but it's just some very narrow field, and those fields where computers are better, these we call narrow AI, and these are just making some reasoning or predictions based on data or recognizing objects from pictures and also doing some speech analysis, but these are a long way from understanding exactly what it is on the picture or what happens in the picture. So you have to bear in mind that when we can combine all those capabilities, in the end we will have robots that are very capable, but now it's still like very specific tasks that computers can do. But there has been huge improvement lately. If we look back at like what was considered as a robotic or artificial intelligence type of work just 20 years ago, then it was like if it was some programmed logic, then it was already considered almost like AI. But nowadays, it's AI is very often a black box with just some mathematical training routines which computers perform, but the reasoning why the decisions have made one way or the other, these cannot be explained in any kind of formula. Okay, and that's the reason why we are seeing this kind of rapid interest growth in AI is that first of all, we have huge amounts of digital data. If we look just back like 10, 15 years, then we were talking about like vision of paper-free offices. And now if we look back at look at our office, Primand office, then when we started Primand in 2014, then I bought a folder this thick, like inch or like 3 centimeters or 4 centimeters thick. I don't know how much it exactly is. And I wrote on the cover 2014 part 1. And now it's 2021 and we haven't filled it up. It's like half empty still, and the last document is from 2015 there. So we have gone ourselves completely paperless, and we're seeing that same thing happening everywhere else. And that means that all the data is digital. There's possibility to use the digital data, and that means that now the computer systems have available data to do this kind of AI processing. Another part is increased speed in processing power, and there also we are seeing like still exponential growth, although it has been several years when someone says that this Moore's law of exponential computing power growth doesn't apply anymore, but we are still seeing the growth. And although we cannot like increase processing this megahertz or gigahertz speed, but adding new cores on into computers, we are seeing the same kind of speed growth. And I think I just read yesterday about like a small ARM chip that Samsung is creating for automotive industry with 8 compute cores and 11 graphics cores and I don't know, huge amount of memory. So we are seeing the same kind of growth everywhere, and that means that we have in every step of our processes that we have in business, we have enough compute power to maybe not train AI models, but definitely to use AI models for decision making and data analysis. And combining all the two previous capabilities, like increase of amount of data that can be analyzed and also increase in compute power, we are seeing also better models and methods as there is like a more install base and more people working on those models. We are seeing more models, and what we are seeing right now is that although there have been techniques for doing neural network analysis for more than 10 years now we are seeing like these ready-made solutions that can be implemented rapidly. And one of those frameworks for rapid implementation frameworks is implementation projects is actually Azure Cognitive Services. So, but what kind of tasks we are looking at when we are talking about AI or machine learning? We are seeing 3 main fields. We are seeing unsupervised learning, where you just throw a bunch of data towards AI or machine learning model, and it looks at that data and identifies clusters or similar data points in that data set, and that's called unsupervised learning. But it's usually so that you still have human intervention in the sense that when computer has done some kind of training and has some kind of results, then human has to look at that data and give feedback and then do another like clustering or this a similarity evaluation. So it's how to say if it actually is unsupervised, but in like methodology it's called unsupervised. And then we have supervised learning, which means that for every data point we have, that usually means that for every data point we also have a like value that we are looking for, and that means that computers can learn that if you have these kinds of data points, you will have these kinds of outputs, and then it can build a model of in what conditions of those data points you will have a certain value. And there we are seeing also developments in not just analysis side, but also in building those digital copies of systems so that your organizations can simulate those data points where computer has to take some action. and or AI must recognize that situation. So this is like the field that's coming is still quite how to say, in infancy, but it will be mainstream in a couple of years probably, as we're seeing very rapid growth in all fields of AI. And the third field is reinforcement learning, where you just give AI steps, or like describe steps that it can take, and then it will start trying out those steps and see the results of it, and that's called reinforcement learning. And this is one where actually, if we're talking about robotics, then this is the one where people have the most hope, as this is the way how humans usually operate, that we, or infants. So you try out, this is hot, this is cold. You shouldn't try hot stuff, and then you learn it and add it into your data model. And this is how reinforcement learning works. Some considerations when you are looking into machine learning is that when you start doing that machine learning project, you should understand that you must be able to describe it as a prediction task. So you might have, it has to be so that you can put some like scale on, like if it's like 70% probability or 80% probability, it's like a probability task. So you have to have, because computers can have yes, no answers, but usually it's a probability, and you have to accept that it's probability. And the same is in every part of our own lives also. It's just that we are, if we make these mistakes of expecting some outcome and it doesn't happen, we say, okay, it happens, but if a computer does make this kind of error, we are not that forgiving. That means that we have to bear in mind that computers also are making these decisions or predictions based on like average outcomes or usual outcomes, and if it's like extraordinary, then also computers make those mistakes. Second step is that we need to have structured data, and if it's unstructured, there are AI services that can help you structure it. But if you want to make a prediction, it's very hard to make prediction from unstructured data, and it's better to have structured data. And step 3, that structured data must come in regularly. That means that there has to be some kind of time scale to evaluate the probability of when it will happen. So if your data is coming in very regularly, like sometimes it's coming every hour and then it's coming like once a week or something like that, then it's very hard to make predictions. And the fourth step is, or consideration is that you should be very how to say, you shouldn't use AI processes, only AI processes, when the AI decision may cause death or injury, because humans can take into account some extraordinary situations, and if data is wrong, then and the actual situation or like overall context is actually okay, then people know that it's okay, or they can take the decision based on overall context and ignore data, which may be bad sometimes. Majority of like action movies is action movies are built around people not believing data, but usually it's the other way around. But with computers, they don't take into account usual context, and so you have to be very. They take into account only the stuff that you have fed it into it, but you cannot feed everything. So it's like it cannot like extend itself and take into account everything. So these were like these considerations in AI and like main fields. But what about those steps that you should take when moving towards AI services? Or what is like the road to that AI service? And here we see like 4 main steps. The first step is, as I told you in previous slide, that you need to have some kind of data. You need some kind of data, structured data that is coming in regularly. And this is this like hindsight part. So you look at that data that's coming in and make analysis on it. So first step is to make analysis based on data. And so you can see what happened in the past, what are the patterns in the data, so you can like identify those main patterns by yourself, and you don't have to rely only on computer analysis. And another thing, what you achieve in this hindsight step is that you will do this like validation of data. So if you're getting this data in and you are making this hindsight or like analyze based on the data, you will see that whether that data is actually accurate, and can you yourself make some kind of predictions, and do you yourself understand that data? And only when you yourself understand the data and are sure that the data is correct, only then you can move to next steps and start doing analysis. And if we're looking like at this AI services, then I would say that even from this, why did it happen? You very often people can find out themselves if they just look at the data and understand how this data has changed, or what kind of like patterns are there in the data, and you don't have to do very deep analysis in that. But when you start looking into future and you want some kind of prediction into future, then you need to start looking more deep into different patterns. And if you have, for example, in organization several or maybe like tens or hundreds of products and product lines, then it's very hard for a person to do analysis in all of them and to add them up into like overall prediction. But for computer, it's not that hard, because it's data, and computers are built to manage data and manage these kinds of processes. And when you have these predictions, you can also and you find out that these predictions are actually correct. And when you have predicted something and it actually happens, then you can start analyzing what should you do to make it happen. And you can also start making those workflows that act upon those results of your predictive analysis, and create this future or those actions that need to be created for the future you hope for to happen. Okay, now let's talk about tools. When we look at this hindsight part, or collecting data part and doing your own analysis, then Microsoft has some very popular products in that business line to do this kind of analysis, to collect data. to clean data up, to add missing data points by calculation, make those average calculation, etc., and present that data in graphical form. And I would say that if you are doing this kind of proof of concept type of thing, where you just need to take data and do a cleanup and present that data once, then Power BI is like a perfect tool for you. So you can connect Power BI to, I don't know, maybe hundreds of different types of data sets. Bring data in, do cleanup of that data, and present data in graphical form, and share that those reports with your co-workers, and do this kind of like drill down analysis and everything. In case you have very large data models and you need to store long periods of data, then I suggest you take this Azure Synapse Analytics into use. And this is like a cloud data warehouse product from Microsoft that can bring in huge amounts of data. Basically, Microsoft says it's like unlimited data warehouse. So you can bring as much data as you wish in, keep the data, raw data, in data lake storage in file form if it comes in files, and you keep your like data storage costs low, and then you do this like data transformation and extraction from the data and load data into reporting, so that you load already cleaned up and structured and very like attractive reports to Power BI dashboards, so that users can use that to understand and analyze the data. And you can bring also the same as in Power BI, you can bring data in from hundreds of different types of data sources, all kinds of APIs and databases, integrate that data in Synapse. And also Synapse has this very good workflow engine called a data factory for orchestration, so that you can build quite good or very good workflow, starting from like getting data to transforming data to sending data to AI for evaluation, getting back those results from AI, writing those steps into your data lake, and then showing those results to reports in Power BI, so you can have all those steps integrated into your workflows and do like data preparation. And when you have achieved the level where you are good in hindsight, you know that data you are bringing into your data warehouse, whether it's Synapse or something else, then you can move and start doing predictions. And there, Microsoft has also different options for you. You can use those pre-built AI models, which are cognitive services. So cognitive services have a lot of different capabilities that you can access programmatically and get results right away. And but sometimes those services might not be specific enough for your business. For example, you want to understand not what item is on the on the picture. You want to understand the model or some kind of a specific criteria of the item on the picture, or identify, for example, a leak in the system from a camera picture. In those cases, you usually have to do some very custom AI solution that will understand those differences or these small details. And there you need some custom solutions, and Microsoft has there also some more standardized machine learning workflow building applications. And you can also take Apache Spark and big data platforms and Databricks, for example, if you want to build your data models from scratch and have them run very specific workflows. So it's like starting from very standard tasks up to very specific tasks. All those are covered. And from Microsoft AI services perspective, and also data warehousing perspective and data presentation perspective in Power BI. And also, if you need to add some kind of data in, you can use some Power App platform products like Power App or Power Automate to automate your workflows in user interface. So you can integrate all those products into a workflow where customer sees everything, a user sees stuff happening, and they don't know how it happens, but are satisfied with results. And in cognitive services, we will talk today about cognitive services, which are like ready-made or pre-trained business AIs. We have 5 different categories with like decision making, language understanding, vision, speech, web search. If going deeper into those fields, then from vision part, what I would like to point out, for example, which are more popular or services are face recognition. Like that means that AI can recognize who the person is. They can recognize also emotions and categorize whether you are like happy or sad, how old you probably are, what is your gender, these kinds of things. And you can also identify fields on forms. So this is also part of vision capability, that you can do this OCR and understand what's written on the form and collect the data from the form into structured form, structured file or database. And from speech side, there is you can do transcription of meetings, you can do speaker recognition, so that if you have transcription, then AI will understand, like tag every person separately, and you will understand who says what from transcription. And from language side, there's like capabilities where you can teach AI to understand intents, so that you can have, for example, some ticket sales or some kind of ordering system integrated into your AI workflows, and so on and so forth. And also you can integrate some kind of web search and knowledge-based searches into your application. I think this knowledge Q&A bot is one of the things that will become more popular nowadays, because companies have huge amount of like these how to say procedures and how-to articles in their knowledge bases, and it's very hard to find those answers from those knowledge bases. And if it's like Word documents, not like properly structured, then this Q&A or knowledge exploration bots can go and see what's in your knowledge bases and index that data, and if as your employee starts looking for some kind of information, they can present options and do this kind of suggestions what they could use. So it's basically in-house Google service, Google search. Okay, but let's go to these examples of some of those services. Let's start with vision. So what it can understand from this AI can understand from pictures and videos. It can understand those objects. So here you see that it found some kind of houses and road and people and street and also cars. And but so this is like a way, for example, you can use this kind of AI in some security, how to say, security workflow, where you have some areas in your office where usually no one enters. So you can put up a camera that will analyze whether there is a person in that room, and when the person is identified, then you can call another AI which will identify the face, and if it's like authorized person, it's okay. If it's not authorized person, you can generate an alert. These kinds of things you can create. But what we are seeing, like the most popular option in this vision side, is form recognizer, which is like recognizing fields from invoices or some kind of orders or some other things that people have filled in. And here this workflow usually is so that when you have coming in those documents, AI service recognizes a document, makes this OCR, like optical character recognition, and recognizes all the words and characters in document. And based on this training that you have conducted, it will also identify the fields and will output those fields into an JSON file that you can use to import data into your other databases or processes. And the good thing is that it will identify all the characters, so that if you need to make, for example, some search afterwards, you can have all the characters in invoice logged somewhere, and if you want to like find a specific like text or thing or product, you can have that also, but it specifically identifies the fields that you have trained. And I have a small demonstration also that how it works. So let's see. So let's look at how it's set up. So we have a Azure services here set up so that let's keep it here. So okay, so for making these forms recognizer let's see, okay, I think I need to do this kind of thing. So to run this forms recognizer service, we need to register some services. Here is like this forms recognizer service, and you just forms recognizer service is going through rapid change nowadays, and it's like a new version coming in every couple of months. To take new version into use, you don't have to update that service here. This is like a service front end. What you need to do is just to have this like API call where you send document to service. You need to update that API call, some parameters there, and it will take this like version number, and it will take new version of Forms Recognizer Service API into use. It's just and you just need one service here. But to take this Forms Recognizer service into use, we need to look at we need to provision that service, and when we have service provisioned, we can we need to also make those training documents available to this Forms Recognizer service. Here we have some invoices in Azure Blob that we can then start analyzing. Let's start a new project. So we have invoice recognition. I'm starting here a custom form, and although this Vision Forms Recognizer service has also pre-built model for invoices, but it works very well with English invoices and invoices in United States. But in our region with invoices in Estonian, Latvian, Lithuanian, it doesn't work that well, and we need to have a custom form recognizing service to run it properly. So it's this one. Okay, continue, and we will also take from here. Let's see. And okay, and we create a project. The same here we have some error for some reason and it's not working, but the same service we are using here in background does this optical character recognition also. So for example, this same document I have here has been analyzed by the same service I just showed you. So we see that the service actually works. And now when we have this document, we can start tagging information here. We can say here it's like invoice number. Invoice number. And it's a field. Then we can have here as a invoice date. And we can have this one here as supplier name and etc. And we can, and here is like a invoice total, for example. So we have inserted some fields. Now we can go to the next invoice of the same supplier. It's running this analysis of text. It will identify text in this document, and then we can already like go and say that this one is invoice number, this one is invoice date, this one here is the supplier name, and here in the here we have invoice total. And Microsoft says that you need at least 5 documents of the same type for this recognition working properly. My experience has been that if I have at least 3, it's working quite okay already. It's always better to have 5, but you cannot always have 5, or you accounting doesn't provide you with 5. And now, when you have those documents, you can start training. And when I click here, training, I need to have a model number and some description, and it will say that training in models list. And here I can see that I have trained some models already previously. So I have some testings here and some invoices from different sources. So I have a model ready. I don't need to actually train, but what happens with that invoice and the fields that we have defined here is that I showed you the folder or blob store in Azure, and here is like a starting position. And now when we have identified some documents and identified those labels for documents, we have some additional information here. And this kind of thing is persistent, so that when you receive a new document and want to add it to a training list, you don't need to re-identify all the previous documents. All those documents those fields are identified already, and when you open it up in this Recognizer Studio, those fields are already available, and you can do the training with new, additional, or amended labels. Okay, but let's go on with this cognitive service part. So I talked about vision side. Now let's have a look at this. So as you see from that demonstration here, this cognitive services is pretty good in understanding English text. Unfortunately, it's not that good in understanding Estonian, Latvian, and Lithuanian yet. Microsoft has promised to add our region languages by the end of fiscal year, which for Microsoft is June 2022. So we are already like trying out different capabilities in that cognitive service part, but unfortunately our local languages are not supported in speech level, but they are supported in knowledge base, so you can use already in knowledge base creation our local languages. But when we in the end receive proper speech support from Microsoft, then I see it as a very good additional tool for these customer service people who are phone service people, where this cognitive services engine can fill in some forms already when listening to customer talking and helping in data entry and understanding what's meant, because these service people cannot remember all the products in company's product line, or cannot remember all the destinations some plane has, or something like that. Okay, maybe with planes it's easier, but for example, bus stops, if it's like a some kind of bus line and you have to know all the bus stops in town, if customer asks you about this information or some kind of specific thing about the product you are selling, then you can have that information included in your database. And when customer asks about it or wants to order that, AI already knows the possible answers to that and can fill in it faster than human does. And the process usually is so that you have a some storage where you load that sound file, or you can also have it running through stream analytics. And based on that outcomes, or like this transcription from that sound file, you can have a key phrase extraction and create the data entries from that information. And it's also Microsoft is working towards this language understanding engines, so that you can insert into your services, configure those different intents that customer might want to do. Customer might want to order something, might want to return something, might want to complain about something. So you have to like understand all the events, or like map those events intents, and then you can build workflows based on different intents and understandings, and have more or less automated workflows for customers. And I see it as a growing like field in retail, because customers very often are like looking at options they could buy during night or early morning, when your employees are not actually at work. And sometimes these customer service companies outsource this support to some call center, where this knowledge about products is not so good, and you can actually replace those service like this call centers with their own bot service that will understand what customer wants and can give the information already, or some prepared order already in user interface in your web shop. So these are like the capabilities that Microsoft is working to provide, and already have some like real world examples. And so, and you also can detect anomalies. Let's see, let's go back a little bit. I was like hitting this forward button too many times. So it's you can add additional capabilities. So I don't know, it's like detect anomalies and moderate content and personalize your applications. I don't know what I can add here. It's just that for persons to detect or to analyze all the comments, it's not possible for human to do it. So you usually need to automate it if you have some kind of web portal, or you need to identify behaviors that are not normal in your organization. This is very often used in some kind of security applications where customer cannot like log in from like different countries at the same time, and so on and so on. So you can have these kinds of detection systems in place with those services. And web search is okay, it's the same as I wrote here. Oh, one thing about this previous slide. So the same with speech is here. This like Estonian, Latvian, Lithuanian support is not very good yet. Microsoft has promised to improve it. So we don't have sentiment analysis yet in our region, but hopefully we will have it by, I don't know, by spring. And then we can also have sentiment analysis in letters coming in from customers so that you can evaluate whether customers are happy or not happy, and you can like create actions or message prioritization based on this content of messages. So I think this is one of the fields that's also very important, because the amount of emails coming into organizations and especially service people, it's growing all the time, and you need to be able to help those people to understand and prioritize their work. About this language understanding I talked previously. So basically, this service has in the background has this kind of framework where you define different intents, what customer wants to achieve, and then you also describe those utterances, or what might customers say or write, and how you should like interpret it. For example, if the customer says this thing, then it might has that intent, and etc. And you will have a log of those different utterances and interactions that this bot had previously, and you can build new those workflows and improve your accuracy based on previous interactions. And Q&A Maker, this is supported in our region. So if you have PDFs, so Word documents in your organization that have some technical information that's required by your users, or some kind of procedure information, then you can integrate it to Q&A Maker and make this information more easily searchable, so that if your employees, your customers interact with your bot service, they will get relevant information. Okay, that's it. And I'll check whether there are some questions also. Okay, seems that we don't have any questions, but if you do have questions, then you can write me to info@primant.com or thomas.mottos@primant.com, and I am very happy to help you if you have any AI related questions. This is a new and interesting field, and we are certainly going to invest into that field and provide a lot of services here. Thank you very much, and see you soon.